welcome to an Olympic edition of This Week in Cannabis Live. We are here with Jeremy Berke, Marc Hauser, and AnnaRae Grabstein. AnnaRae, I hear you are a newfound hockey fan, as are many because you've been enjoying heated rivalry. Does that carry over to the Olympics?
It does. Hockey isn't my first sport that I usually watch in the Olympics, but I love the Olympics, and I'm all in it, especially for the luge. I think that like many of us in the cannabis space, like know the stories about the Jamaican luge team and
Bobsled.
Bobsled.
Bobsled. Yeah.
You guys are you're really showing your northern California.
You're clearly from California. I was going to say that.
California. I can't survive in the snow, but I'll watch it on TV.
But I will also say this, which also bridges Canadian hockey, is that in the Bay Area of California, one of the best young hockey players, Macklin Celebrini, is on the Canadian Olympic hockey team, and that's going to be something to watch. And I think he was born actually later than Sid Crosby's first Olympic gold. If my age is not like Sid Crosby is old and
he
is very young, and they are both very good. And there's lots of pictures of them together on the ice.
It's amazing. So
that's going to be very exciting.
Any good ice hockey players to come out of Northern California, it's an anomaly because there's not really a ice hockey culture here at all.
I know a little bit more in the South Bay. I mean, that there's a hockey team there. They built a rink. There's more there, but Southern California actually has some hockey players. Austin Matthews, who was on the U.S. Olympic team, but plays here in Toronto, grew up in Arizona, but I think played his youth hockey in Southern California. It doesn't really matter. That's way too much information for this specific show. That's going to be my next show, youth hockey podcast. Jeremy, we're going to go around the horn because everybody did something extraordinary this week. Jeremy, you and I had an event not yesterday, but a week ago, Thursday. I'm going to play a clip from it, but I want to get first your thoughts on the event, and then we'll play a clip of what Kirsten Gillibrand, U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, had to say about Donald Trump and cannabis. But go ahead.
Sure. My thoughts on the event are it was A+. I think what we are really trying to do with Cultivated and the Highrise, our event with Gotham, is cultivate, and I'm sorry for using that word, a community of the smartest people in cannabis, right? People that are actually rolling up their sleeves and doing stuff every single day. And I think that was really notable in the room, how everyone had a perspective, whether they were a policy person, a regulator, a business leader, an attorney, wherever they're from. And so I think there's a lot of that network effect that was really interesting. Just quickly, it was very impactful that Senator Gillibrand gave us time, right? I think that it means, there's a lot of things she could have been doing with her 30 minutes on a Thursday evening ahead of a government shutdown vote. And it was really impactful that she gave us all that time. She wanted to be in the room. Her team is very, very engaged on the issue. She's a very smart politician. And so I think that's a huge signal. And we should, as an industry, that's a clear advocate in Congress right now.
I would also say, and I'm going to play a clip of what she was joking about the president and rescheduling or descheduling. She also knew what she was talking about, which didn't surprise me, but she was pretty deep in it.
She's smart. She's really smart. Yeah.
She had criticism of both Democratic and Republican presidents for not getting it done. She said if any president, past or future, wanted to get it done, they could. And she was talking about descheduling at the time. She had some, I'm not sure harsh words, but a call to action of the mayor of New York about crackdown on bodega sort of cannabis sales. And then she had this to say about President Trump, which I thought was both funny, but also, as AnnaRae said, a little bit too insightful about where the government is right now.
President Trump to want to do cannabis. Maybe we should offer him a cannabis license for New York so that he can make a ton of money and then he will be for this industry. I don't know, but that's just one theory. Money talks. He's a businessman first.
He is a businessman first. But that was she did get a chuckle. She said that towards the end, but it was a great conversation with her. She's super insightful and actually had some words about what she thought might be a path forward in DC as well, although I'm less optimistic about any of it. I think we've talked about that before because
basically just brought to the forefront that our government operates like a gumball machine, and you put money in and maybe you get something out.
It doesn't need to be actually money. It could be Bitcoin as well, or Trump.
Well,
licorice. Yeah.
Yes. Right. AnnaRae, I think it was last week as well. There was news about Rhythm and GTI having their Senorita THC, hemp-derived THC beverages available at the United Center, although not at Bulls and Blackhawks games. Although I went to a Bulls game last night, they're terrible, so it doesn't matter what they serve there. Nobody's going to go watch them play. Ray, you had on the team from Rhythm/GTI. Like, what were some takeaways from there? Because that is garnering lots of news in the realm.
Yeah, well, so yeah, they had recently announced a partnership with the United Center, and it's the biggest arena that is serving THC beverages, not the first. There's been a number of music festivals and smaller independent venues, including the Salt Shed, which is a big one that GTI did a partnership with before and previously. I think more the conversation is just about that THC beverages really are entering hospitality and entertainment zones, and they're putting good numbers on the board. They didn't have exact predictions, but there was a slight prediction that around 5 to 10% of beverages at the United Center when the THC beverages would be sold would be THC at the bar, which is substantive, and we'll get to see more as it rolls out. The first event was the next day after our interview, which was a Boys to Men concert, which is pretty old school. They said that it was targeted towards 40-year-old women, which I guess that's the demographic that they were really targeting. But I think overall the concept is that the THC beverages do really well in mainstream and outside of dispensary channels. There's a lot of excitement around these beverages, and this is just another place that we're seeing them pop up and consumers choose them within a mix of many choices.
Yeah,
I imagine. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Marc.
Well, for those who are on the stream who haven't listened yet, I mean, I imagine that they are they must be very active in at least, if not directly in the lobbying, at least in that conversation with Congress to push along some of the affirmative legislation. Do they have any sort of insight into sort of where the latest is and where Congress is?
They were very clear that wasn't something that they were talking about, but they did say that GTI and Rhythm broadly do support low-dose beverages outside of the regulated cannabis channel, and that they believe that THC beverages, specifically low-dose ones, are a strong on-ramp to introducing people to THC that then bring them into the regulated channel. And so that is something that that GTI is supporting. I think in terms of kind of who knows what about legislation, nobody really knows anything at this point, and those that do aren't going to give it up on a podcast and tell us, because the way that things are getting done in DC is with whispers.
But if they wanted to, they could come on Cultivated or yours or give Marc.
Absolutely. Anyone knows anything real, please let us know. That said, they also it is notable that the deal that they signed with the United Center is a multi-year deal, and so it actually extends past the November 2026 deadline for these beverages no longer being legal. So I think that shows a bit of optimism, but I'm sure that there's a backout clause that if these products are now illegal, that they don't have to continue the partnership, or at least keep commercializing them.
Yeah, it grabbed our attention. And just shameless plug, we have an event coming up in Chicago, March 12th, called the Midwest Cannabis Forum. You can find it at midwestcannabisforum.com. Some of the same people that AnnaRae is talking to about the same subject will be at our event. But thank you, AnnaRae and Marc. You also, I would say, at a seminal Cannabis Musings this week. Give us, I know, right? Give us a bit about what you were writing about.
Family podcast. This is a family stream, so let's. Sorry, I can't help myself. No, I wrote about the cannabis and their forbearance agreement with their note holders, and which was just another between them and Air from last year. I mean, these are two of the biggest MSOs that are in in financial distress, and it's a big sign to me. I mean, cannabis, which used to be the Columbia Cares, many know was I mean, they were focused primarily on medical, was kind of their primary mandate, but they were they expanded very quickly, just like a lot of the other big MSOs did, and now they closed their their sale of their Virginia assets to Mill Street yesterday, which was that was a fast closing. I mean, it was kind of impressive. They must have been very close with the Virginia regulatory authorities to get that done so quickly, to get the approvals done, which then they paid down a portion of the notes and redeemed a portion of the notes with the proceeds, but they're still in default. It didn't cure the default because they were outside of their the grace period on the interest payments. So, I would imagine that the lenders, the note holders are still still have them over a barrel to a certain extent. So we'll see how that goes along, but it's another sort of instance of just distress in this industry.
Yes,
but Air came back to life.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And totally recapitalized the company. Is that where this is all headed? Ultimately, it just seems like that's the inevitable outcome.
I suspect that's the case. I mean, it's, they're still going to have to deal with basically what I suspect will happen is they're either going to, is the lenders are probably going to, take over a portion, they'll convert some of the debt into equity, if not all of it.
Right.
The notes that are outstanding. I mean, you had FISI was one of the note holders about a year and a half ago before they sort of swapped out the notes. These were older versions of the notes that I think were due 2026. Was already rattling the cage with cannabis. But you still got taxes, still a fair amount of taxes owed. I mean, there's still a large debt burden on this company. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't think the company just poof goes away. I think you're right. Is the assets will end up with the lenders, and and they'll restructure it. But it'll be interesting to see. Does Mill Street own a portion of this debt like they did Air? I mean, we don't know. Is it FISI? And to me, I sort of noted this in the musings is, hopefully we see these assets continue to sort of operate, because there's a lot of people who are working for these companies, and a lot of good people who are trying to make this business work. So you don't want to lose those jobs. You don't want to lose this momentum that this industry is even though as distressed as it is still, we're still making progress.
Can I use that as a segue, Jeremy, Marc, and AnnaRae, for something that did come across our emails and desks, or virtual desks, earlier today, actually, which caught all of our attention. I'm going to share it on the screen right now. And we could talk about what it means, doesn't mean, whatever, but it's from Willie Nelson's Willie's Remedy, raised $15 million to bring its THC drinks nationwide. This caught our attention, didn't it?
Yeah.
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 Now
surprised. Yes.
Now it's interesting. It doesn't say when they closed it.
They just announced it, though, so that's a good point. It could have been previously, but it is a surprise. I would say that the THC beverage sector and the hemp space in general, ever since November, has had a very challenging time bringing capital into the space, and rightfully so. I think as any investor would be pretty hard pressed to write a check right now with the policy environment so uncertain.
Yeah. Now it may be maybe the investors demanded a clawback or something like that. If there's if something isn't done by November. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I agree. It is very strange because anecdotally, I've heard the same thing, AnnaRae, that every deal that was on the table, every investment deal into the space just dried up like that in November, because why would you take that risk as an investor? There's an interesting statement in this press release. I'm just scanning it now. It says that the brand has already sold more than 400,000 bottles, making it the #1 THC beverage sold online. Which is an interesting statement, because and I'm not calling them liars. I'm not doing that public. It's more just like, it's how do they know that? it's an interesting claim, because there's not a lot of, there's some information, but there's not a lot of great data yet still.
Right.
Yeah. So one of what Nielsen recently said that at a store level that nowadays is the largest THC beverage that is moving through any of the platforms that they're tracking. And nowadays has Michelle Bodian as their in-house attorney, who often shares a lot of regulatory and policy updates. And they've recently just hired someone that I think you guys maybe announced in the newsletter, who is a former longtime employee at TTB. And this is important and interesting just because online sales are very challenging in alcohol. They're not completely prohibited. There's certainly like ways that people do it under certain circumstances. But as folks have been talking about the hopeful kind of perspective of what could happen for hemp beverage or hemp broadly, there's often a discussion of, do we get to keep online sales or not? And so this statement from Willie's Remedy, I've always felt when I am working on diligence projects that if you're looking at revenue, that revenue should be valued differently from revenue that's traveling through traditional distribution versus online sales for hemp beverages. And I think that it should be valued at a lower multiple because it's a lot less secure ultimately than any sell-through that's happening at a store level, which I think people could have a little bit more confidence in, although not in this environment.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the biggest sort of challenge for the wine industry is the difference between selling direct to customer DTC versus selling through the wholesale channels, because your margins are better DTC, but you're relying upon the stickiness and the hopes for stickiness of those customers, and but at the same time wholesale is a little more guaranteed, but your margins are much lower, and also the problem is getting wholesale distribution. And how do unless you're big enough, how do you stand out with the wholesalers and the distributors? Well, certainly with the 3-tier market or 3-tier system of alcohol, it raises that challenge. So I mean, I agree with you. It's very complex.
Which is actually, I mean, which is why the edibles marketplace, I don't know what we're going to call it, is actually kind of interesting, because they do have the wholesale distribution model and they actually go to direct to consumer and they have a physical footprint. That's not where they're distributing the THC, the sort of hemp derived stuff, but they're using the same distribution system direct to consumer that they have and have big market. Like, it's interesting because I listened to Thomas Winstanley on on Brian Field's podcast, and talking directly about this, about the logistics behind their operation. And they don't have their own brands yet. So it is interesting to sort of unplug at least that specific example. Jer, you were saying?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say to Marc's point, I found it interesting that the first quote in the press release was the CEO of Juneshine, which, from what I understand, handles the Willie's Willie's Remedy, their distribution, right? And so it's a curious investment to me, right? Like, if I had $50 million, I don't think I would park it into cannabis beverages, but clearly there's some broader distribution play happening here, and so it'll be interesting to uncover that.
I will say, we were listening to music in the car on the way to hockey, of course, and my son did ask what "roll me up and smoke me when I die" actually means when Willie Nelson sings it. So we had that discussion. He actually knows, but he wanted me to describe it to him, which is funny, because the kids do know Willie for sure from car rides and the rest of it. We launched something that I actually want to ask your thoughts on. We launched something with our analytics partner at Lit Alerts, and I'm going to show it here. We call it the Brand Power Rankings. This is specific to New York, and they come together with a formula that uses weighted index that balances market dominance with retail health and pricing strategy, integrating estimated unit sales volume and estimated dollar value, and discount frequency. But this is the first iteration of that for January, but we launched it in February, of the brand power rankings in New York. And not for nothing, but those first 3 were all at our event in New York as sponsors and partners.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, as well as some of the other ones. But it is an interesting way to think about it. It's not just the top selling brands, although it mostly is, but it has another factors as well. This is something we're going to be tracking. Think of it like college football, where people will be up, people will be down, and we'll also capture sort of brands on the rise as they move up the food chain in New York. But it is we're calling it the brand power rankings. We may be doing it in other jurisdictions, but we're certainly starting it in New York. But it was interesting.
There's a lot here for sure. And one of the things, and so for people that are listening and not watching, top brands, top 5 are Heirloom, Jaunty, MFNY, Florist Farms, and Dank by definition. And then even the next 2 brands, Off Hours and Ruby Farms in 6 and 7, these are all New York brands.
Yeah.
These are not national brands. And I think that the first national brand that we see on this list is number 8, Fernway, which isn't even quite national, but I would say more regional at this point, but multi-state. And then Rhythm following that at number 9, a GTI brand. But New York is a very unique market when it comes to the brands that are performing well in the market. And whether that has to do with the New York consumer, the strength of these entrepreneurs and these founders, or potentially even the way that the licensing unfolded in terms of who got to come to market first, kind of remains to be seen. I think that the national brands are working hard to find a footing in New York, and especially the folks that are connected to the original medical operators that are more of the MSOs in New York. I think that we will start to see those brands on the top lists and start moving up as they commercialize further. But it's really exciting, I think, to see these New York born and bred brands. And my question for those brands is, are you going to stay in New York, or is this kind of strength that you're finding in the market something that you see that is ready to be translated into adjacent areas? Like, are you going to New Jersey? Are you going to move into Ohio and Pennsylvania? Or do you want to call me and come to California? I think that all those things are on the table, and this is how it starts. A lot of the brands that we call national brands, they started somewhere. And New York is showing that it can be a place that brands can be born, which I think everyone predicted. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't underestimate, the market is still early and new, and people with built-in sales teams like Heirloom certainly had, and distribution like Heirloom certainly had, because they have other, I would say, adjacent businesses with operations dating back 100-something years. Like, those things about being a real operator actually matter in real markets. And I would also say New York is a very complicated state to operate in, and it's big and varied, and distribution is not easy. It takes a very long time to distribute from Western New York into sort of Long Island. Like, it's a very big and complicated state to move around product in. But it was interesting to see this, and we're going to continue to do this. The first week of every month, we'll be releasing the brand power rankings in New York, and next month will be the one that actually has some tracking data as well. Yeah. And I know we have some hard outs because we want to get ready for the Olympics. We have some stretching to do, some flights to catch. Yes. AnnaRae has to watch a couple more episodes of her show before she catches.
I stayed up way too late and watched them all. If anyone there is also watching Heated Rivalry, you reach out to me. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Everybody's watching it. Mike, we're watching it as a family. I know it's not a family show, but we are watching mostly as a family.
It's not a family show. Yes.
It's not a family show. It raised more questions than Willie Nelson's "Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die," but all good questions. No bad questions as a kid and a parent. So, that never happens. I would give a shout out for some of our things. March 12th in Chicago, Midwest Cannabis Forum. For the first 150 or so people that apply to the application, their tickets went on sale today. We'll be releasing more tickets as we go. AnnaRae, Marc, anything else to announce?
Come hang out with me at the Cannabis Summit in Miami, February 26th and 27th. I will be moderating a panel on investor perspectives on what's happening in THC.
I like it. You can talk United Center and Willie's Remedy.
Absolutely.
Marc, what are you writing about?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about whether to write about what's going on in Florida for next week. But also, if you're a lawyer out there and need some continuing legal education credit, I'm going to be one of the presenters on PLI's annual cannabis law conference or day-long event, which is always a lot of fun, always very interesting. So make sure to sign up for that. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but everybody knows, every lawyer knows PLI, so it's easy to find out.
Thank you, Professor Hauser.
I will add one thing. For those who have figured it out on their own, awesome. But we are publishing these recordings of Cannabis Live this week in Cannabis Live on the High Spirits audio platforms. And so you can listen to these episodes as well on the High Spirits podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your audio podcasts. And we are seeing a lot of you show up there and listen to them. So thank you for doing that and follow along. Rate us, all of the things, and it gets the word out. So thanks everyone who is tuning into the episodes on audio as well.
You just won't see my Canada gear. That's all.
Yeah. Jay doesn't think that audio matters. He thinks that video is the only thing. But so for all you audio listeners, prove that there's
AnnaRae,
more
you don't even know.
there.
You don't even know. I'm the co-host of the most widely listened to daily business news podcast in Canada. You don't even know that. And there's no video. So
no video.
Yeah.
And if it's so wide, why do we not know this? Okay.
For another day. Do you care about Canadian business at all?
You should. There's a
you
lot of business.
Then you should subscribe to Speak Daily. Subscribe to Speak Daily. It's quite good. Quite good. Yeah.
I read it. I listen.
Yeah. Jeremy reads the newsletter. I do the podcast. It's a whole thing. All right.
Yeah.
Enough of this ridiculousness. Everybody have a good and safe weekend. Go Team Canada. The women start, I think, this week. The men start. I'm talking about hockey in particular.
Yeah. They start this week.
The women had their first game canceled yesterday because the women's Finnish hockey team all has norovirus.
Podcast, but thank you so much, Jay.
All right, that's the next one. We're going to record that later. All right, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good week.